Today, we're diving into a topic that is absolutely critical for anyone sitting on a company's board. How exactly do you navigate the huge responsibilities of being a director and protect yourself from some very serious personal liability?
Let's just start with a fundamental truth. If you're a director, every single decision you make is being watched. You are, quite literally, constantly under the scanner, and you have to understand that the stakes are incredibly high.
You know, under India's Companies Act of 2013, the law is crystal clear. It's not just about the things you do wrong, what they call an act of commission. It's also about what you fail to do, an act of omission. And both of these can lead to some really severe penalties. We're talking hefty fines and even jail time.
So, how do you protect yourself? Well, we've laid out a roadmap. We'll start by understanding what it means to be under the scanner. Then we'll build your safeguard strategy, look at knowing your company's DNA, and mastering the rules. We'll cover why your voice is your shield. And finally, pull it all together to go from liability to leadership.
Okay, first things first. Let's really get to grips with the reality of the world you're operating in as a director.
Now, this is a huge misconception a lot of people have. You might think you can just sign some agreement to avoid liability. But let me be clear. The law offers no blanket immunity for non-compliance. It just doesn't work that way.
And the consequences for breaking the rules, they are no small thing. It can range from fines to imprisonment, and sometimes, the law is very specific about this, you can get hit with both at the same time.
All right, now that we've established the risks, which are pretty serious, let's start building the solution, your personal safeguard strategy. The key thing to understand here is that protection isn't some magic bullet. It's not one thing you do. Think of it more like a fortress that you have to consciously build for yourself, brick by brick.
This really gets to the heart of the mindset you need. You have to shift from just passively hoping you're covered to proactively ensuring you are through deliberate and consistent actions. So where does the foundation of this fortress begin? It starts right here, with two absolutely critical documents that basically define your company's entire reason for being.
Think of it this way. Your company's charter has two main parts. The Memorandum of Association looks outward. It defines what the company is allowed to do in the world. But the Articles of Association look inward. They define how it's supposed to do it. You have to know both of these, inside and out.
So acting strictly in line with these two documents is your first and maybe your most fundamental line of defense. Any action you take that's outside of these rules, what the law calls ultra-virus or beyond the powers, well, that can expose you to liability right out of the gate.
Okay, with that foundation laid, let's start building up the walls. And that means mastering the rules of your business, your industry, and of course, the law itself.
You know, to make good, informed decisions, you can't just be a figurehead on a board. You need to have a solid general understanding of the company's actual business, the industry it's playing in, and the legal framework that governs everything.
All right, this is a really important legal term you need to know, officer in default. This is basically who the law holds responsible when something goes wrong. And here's the kicker. If the company doesn't appoint specific key managerial personnel, or KMP, then that officer in default could be you. This is why insisting on having KMPs is so important. It helps designate who's responsible and can shield you.
Now for what I think is the most active part of your defense, actually using your voice. Because when you're sitting in that boardroom, silence is not golden. In fact, it can be a huge liability.
So let's imagine this scenario, because every director faces it sooner or later. What do you do if you disagree with a board decision? What if you feel it's just wrong, or maybe even illegal? What you do next is absolutely critical for your own protection.
And this slide says it all. Silence is not an option. Just abstaining from a vote, that's not a shield. In the eyes of the law, that can easily be interpreted as you silently going along with the decision. You have to actually go on the record with your disagreement.
So, how do you do that? How do you go on the record? Well, you have to be there. Attend the meetings. Always insist on reviewing the draft minutes, and if you disagree with something, you have to voice that dissent clearly so it gets recorded. Oh, and demand due diligence reports so you know you're making decisions based on facts, not just feeling. Okay, let's bring all of this together. Because when you start doing these things, a funny thing happens. These defensive actions start to transform you from someone just trying to avoid liability into a true leader.
So, here it is, your complete toolkit. As you can see, this isn't a one-time thing. It's a continuous cycle, right? You're always learning, participating, questioning, and making sure everything is documented.
And here's the most important takeaway. This really isn't just about self-preservation. By taking all these steps to protect yourself, you are inherently protecting the company, its employees, and all of its stakeholders. You're actually becoming a better, more effective director.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Is being a director just a passive title on your business card, or is it an active, engaged responsibility? The law is very clear about what it expects, and building your personal safeguard strategy is the absolute best way to fulfill that duty.